What's up fam? Today I'm going to be taking you through my top 10 favorite rackets of all time. I always get asked what type of rackets I use, whether I keep all the rackets I use, how many rackets I have, and recommendations. Today I'll be running you through my personal top 10 favorites. Guys, this is just my favorites. This is not the greatest rackets of all time. This is not the ones that'll make you play better. This is just my personal preference. So let's kick things off with number 10. Number 10, we have the Yonex DR98. First of all, love the paint job. Nick Kyrgios used a racket pretty similar to this, and when I first started coaching with it, it had really good feel, especially with your volleys in your hands. It's 310 grams, but it kind of plays a little bit lighter. I always preferred a lighter racket, being able to swing through a little quicker. I definitely struggled to create good power out of this racket. However, for touch and feel at the net, this was a no-brainer. Number 9 is the BABOLAT Pure Storm. I do like the older version as well. I used it at a 295 gram and I played with this racket for a good 2-3 years. A real good all-round racket. I find that BABOLAT probably do the best all-round rackets. This was a favorite stick of mine for a long time and I don't think I'll ever let it go. Number 8, the TI Radical. If you're an Andre Agassi fan, you'll probably remember this racket. Agassi used this back in the day. I found this at a garage sale for $12 and I decided to grab it. The guy didn't know what he was letting go. It plays okay, it's pretty strong. It's a typical sort of like early 2000s racket. It hasn't got as much feel as the rackets of today, but it's got this cool nostalgic kind of feel to it. Paint job is cool. It's definitely one of my favorite sticks. Now we couldn't have a countdown of best rackets without adding a Wilson Pro Stuff, but my number 7 is a special edition American paint job Wilson Pro Stuff. This was a gift to me by a guy called Josh Rollins over in Texas. J-Roll, thanks so much for the gift. Red, white, and blue, stars, stripes. It's just a really cool stick. Plays pretty well too for an older racket. Endorsed by Jim Courier. It's got a little Jim Courier signature there. This is just a really cool stick. Number 6, we have the Head Pure Competition. Pure Competition. This was actually my first adult racket. I used a junior racket for so long, and then when I was 13, I upgraded to my first adult size racket, and this was it. I played with it for a couple of years. It had this weird twin tube technology where people thought it was stronger because there was 2 tubes instead of 1 in there. Don't know how true that is. The maroon, the silver, it's always gonna be a racket I'll hold on to forever. A lot of junior titles with this one. Okay, a couple of junior titles with this one, but still, it's a really cool racket. At number 5, we bring you the Head Prestige racket. Now, I actually didn't enjoy using this racket on court, but I think they have a really cool look to it. I happened to found an all black limited edition one. I happened to found 125-year special edition over in a club in Dallas. I bought it for my brother for his birthday. He did not treat it well. As you can see, it is cracked. This racket sadly will never be used again. I usually find people who have a bigger game, big ground strokes, big serves, play a little bit flat, the Prestige is usually a really great racket for you. So if that's something that you're interested in, Head Prestige, you can't go wrong and you're gonna look the part while doing it. Okay, I had a tie at 4th place. I couldn't separate these two. So my mum and dad met playing tennis. They were always big tennis players and they passed on the love of the game to me. My mum recently retired from tennis. She does not play anymore. However, when she did, she used the Head TI Fire. It's got this cool little black and yellow paint job. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. And she had this weird little backhand where she'd kind of come in from behind, chop and like almost break her elbow in half. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. I think that's half the reason she retired. My dad, on the other hand, all about the big serve, big forehand. He used the Wilson Hammer. Now this racket here is not his exact racket, but the one that he has, I've never seen any others around the world. So he's still playing at 65 years of age, and I think he's gonna hold on to that racket forever, but it's definitely one that holds a special spot in my heart. Okay, as we crack into the top 3, the next one I have to comment on is the BABOLAT Pure Drive. This is a pretty common standard racket. You probably see it at a lot of clubs. A lot of people play this one, and for good reason. In my opinion, it is the best all-round racket of all time. This one here is 300 grams. You got a real good feel to it. It really feels like you hit the sweet spot every time. Andy Roddick actually made this racket pretty popular back in the early 2000s, but you see so many players still using it today. This is the racket I coach with. I get the best feel from it. I feel like I never hit the frame. It's always really sweet to hit with, and it's just a really smooth racket. I think there's a reason this has stood the test of time, and I don't think it's going anywhere soon. So if you're looking to get into tennis, you're at that intermediate to advanced, and you're looking for a stick, I couldn't recommend this one higher. BABOLAT Pure Drive takes out the number 3 spot. Number 2 is my playing racket, the Head Radical MP. This is the racket I use at the moment for when I play competitively. Once again, I choose the lighter version. I got the 295 grams. I feel like with the lighter racket, I'm able to swing through that ball a little quicker, rely on my body to create the pace rather than the racket. It's got a great feel to it. It's a cool little paint job too. It's got me through a couple of tough matches, a couple of scrapes along the ground, a couple of throws in the air, a couple of stomps. Anyway. I also feel like it's super solid in my hands at the net, which is a huge thing for a serve bowler like myself. You want a racket that you feel is going to be stable every time you hit through the ball. Head Radical taking out number 2 spot. And the winner of the number 1 racket, the Prince TT Warrior. The reason this is the number 1 racket for me is it is my idol's racket. Back in 1997 at the US Open, Pat Rafter won his first ever Grand Slam. As a kid on the weekends, I'd always wake up early and join my dad on the couch watching some sort of American sports events overseas, and Pat Rafter happened to be in the final of the US Open. He was playing a guy called Greg Grzeski. I asked him what this sport was, who this guy was. Pat Rafter, we're cheering for him. He was a big serve volleyer, and ever since then, I was a massive Pat Rafter fan. This is the racket he used later on in his career. He made 2 Wimbledon finals with this racket. It took me forever to find this racket until I stumbled across a man who happened to say that he had one for sale. I bought it off him like that. Then I was also lucky enough to Get Set Boys as a farewell gift, found 2 more, so I now have 3 Prince TT Warriors, and these are always going to go down to me as the greatest rackets of all time. So there it is, my personal top 10 favorite rackets. They're the ones that I keep here with me at all time, as well as a couple of others. We will be doing a video soon just going through the rackets individually, not just these ones but others as well, about what type of racket's going to help you play the best for your game style. We'll go into depth about the weight of the rackets, the balance distribution, how to string it, everything like that. Hopefully give you guys some value on what racket to pick. But for now, it's been Nelson Parker signing out.